So it's very possible for us to have the kind of forests that we want. The models that show that are there for people to go visit and observe. These forests are producing an income for these people, and they're just getting healthier. So there is no reason that we can't do that on the federal forest, because you're getting a poorer forest every year for the $5 billion you're pumping in there right now. And I don't think that's what people want.
In the 1970s, Congress passed laws that required detailed planning procedures in the national forests. These laws were intended to solve conflicts between timber interests and environmental protection, and they took control away from local Forest Service managers. But the polarization and conflicts did not go away. In the 1990s, the Forest Service again tried to solve the gridlock with more planning and zoning, using abstract concepts of ecosystem management.
And it really was trying to find a mechanical way, in a sense, of solving these problems. And they can't be solved that way. They just can't be solved that way.
When you're given a choice between following your incentives and following your mission, you're going to follow your incentives. So what we need to do is think about not just what mission do we want for the Forest Service, but how do we align the incentives of the Forest Service so that they're the same as the mission. And that's something that very few people have ever done. And it's something that people, it seems to me, are often not willing to do. They just want to prescribe the end result without thinking about how you attain that end result.
For a century, we've actively suppressed forest fire. On some federal lands, extractive logging has simplified timber stands and interrupted decay cycles. We now have a man-made buildup of dry, dead wood on millions of acres, which makes both prescribed fire and wildfire difficult to control. With increasing hot, dry weather over much of the West, fires have been larger, hotter, and more destructive. Congress has responded with increasing appropriations for prescribed burning, fuels reduction, and fire suppression on national forest lands.
So fire, again, in the 2000s, has become the number one source of the Forest Service's funding, the number one source of its incentives. Congress has shown that if the Forest Service just goes out and rains money on fires to try to put them out, that Congress will always reimburse it, no matter how much they spend.
The Forest Service now spends more on fire-related activities than on management, maintenance, and stewardship combined. As more money is invested in fire, there is less for fish and wildlife habitat, trail maintenance, or stewardship in general. Prescribed fire has not run into the litigation and procedural delays that have limited the use of other tools by the Forest Service, such as logging, thinning, or livestock grazing. Many Forest Service professionals continue to advocate the return of fire, but fire remains a controversial tool, one that highlights differing incentives and understandings.
Fire's caveman forestry. We stopped bleeding people years ago for injuries and diseases and things like that. The problem with forest management is not going to be solved with a match. The chances of us doing some real bad damage in the forest, into the atmosphere, are too great to just continue to buy on to lighting it afire. It's just like any garden. There's more to it than just planting a seed and walking away. There's a lot of tending that has to take place. We can't wish health onto this ground. I think we're responsible to help bring it about.